Hi, Conrad. Thanks for agreeing to meet with me. I know you've been trying to get clear answers about your collection, and I understand why you're angry. You trusted this store with property that belonged to your father, and you should not have had to repeatedly contact the business just to find out what happened.
Should not have had to contact anyone this many times. My family placed a collection worth at least $100,000 with this store. Now sets are missing, the records are a mess, and nobody wants to take any responsibility.
You are right. You're right that the record keeping and communication were unacceptable. Although I was not the owner when the collection was originally accepted, I now own the business and I'm responsible for helping resolve the situation. I asked you here because I did not want to keep avoiding the problem or trading angry messages. I want us to work towards a fair agreement.
Fair agreement's simple. Give me my property back or pay me my $100,000.
I understand why that's your opening demand. You believe the store either sold, lost, or mishandled property that still belonged to your family. You also feel like the ownership change has been used as an excuse instead of finding someone to take responsibility. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I don't care who owned the store. The store had my collection, now a large part of it's gone.
That makes sense. From your perspective, the business remained responsible even when the ownership changed. I'm not asking you to accept the ownership change as an excuse. I'm asking us to separate what we know from what still needs to be verified so that I can create a solution that I can actually fulfill.
What do you still need to verify? I gave the store the whole inventory list.
Well, I found the inventory sheets, but they do not match each other or the point of sale system. Some items appear on one list but not another. Some sales are reported without a matching payment entry, and some sets have been moved into storage without being properly documented.
That sounds like the store lost my collection.
I mean, it may mean that some items were sold without proper payment records, and some were misplaced, or some were incorrectly entered into the system. I do not want to make claims before we complete a physical inventory and compare the record. What I can admit right now is the store's documentation was inadequate, and the communication afterwards made the problem worse.
So it feels like you're just hiding behind some bad paper.
I understand why it feels that way. You've been given vague answers for months, so another explanation about records probably sounds like another delay. My intention is not to avoid responsibility. My goal is to create a verifiable account so that neither of us has to rely on assumptions.
My father spent years collecting these sets. Some of them cannot be simply replaced.
I hear that it's not only about the money. The collection represented your father's time, knowledge, and something he intended to leave your family. Losing control of those items probably feels personal as well as financially damaging.
Exactly. Everyone keeps talking about inventory as these are random boxes.
I understand I cannot replace the personal meaning of the collection, but I can make sure that its history and condition are considered when we determine what happened and what compensation is fair. Besides receiving payment, what would you need from this process to feel that the business has taken the situation seriously?
I want every remaining item returned. I want to know what was sold, how much it was sold for, where my money went, and also what compensation for items that cannot be found.
Those are reasonable interests. You want transparency, the return of property, compensation for verified losses, and accountability from the business.
Yes, and I want it now, not dragged out for another 6 months.
I agree, we need deadlines. My interests are resolving this fairly, protecting the business from an amount that has not been verified and creating an agreement that I can realistically complete. I do not want to promise you $100,000 today if the business cannot produce that amount of, or if we can't produce that amount of money, or if the actual verified loss is different.
That collection should have been sold for way more than $100,000.
That may be true. However, potential resale value and actual complete sales and the amount of your family would have received under the consignment agreement may be different figures. We need neutral standards to determine the correct amount.
And who decides what the missing items are worth? You?
No, I don't think it would be fair for me to determine the value alone. I propose that we jointly choose an independent appraiser who specializes in sealed Lego sets, retired projects, and rare minifigures.
Do not want someone using original retail prices. Some retired sets are worth several times what they originally cost.
I definitely agree. The appraisal should consider the recent verified sales, rarity, whether the box was sealed, condition, completeness, and market value around the time that the items should have been returned or sold.
And what about your commissions the store should have received?
The original written consignment agreement should determine how the proceeds would have been divided. The appraiser can establish fair market value, and then we can apply the agreed consignment percentage. For any items that were sold, you should receive the amount you were entitled to under the agreement.
And what happens if you say the original agreement's missing too?
Then we can examine previous payments, emails, standard store terms from that period, and similar consignment records. If we still disagree, we can use a neutral mediator to help establish a fair standard. I would like us to consider several options instead of arguing over only one option, or only one number.
Okay, what options?
First, we complete a joint physical inventory of the sales floor, storage room, office, and any off-site storage connected to the business. Second, I can provide copies of every available inventory sheet, sales record, payment record, photograph, and communication involving your collection. Third, every remaining item we can reasonably identify as yours will be returned unless you specifically choose to continue consigning it. Fourth, we can jointly hire an independent appraiser to value confirmed missing items. And fifth, I can submit a claim through the store's business insurance and investigate whether the former owner remains legally responsible for part of the loss. And finally, if the verified amount exceeds what the business or insurance can pay immediately, we could create a structured payment plan.
A payment plan? That sounds like it'd take years.
That depends on the verified amount of the store's finances. We could discuss an initial lump sum payment followed by monthly payments. We could also include interest, security for the agreement, or larger payments during stronger sales months.
I don't want store credit or free services. I want my property or my money.
That is clear. I will not treat store credit as compensation unless you specifically request it. The primary resolution would involve returning property and paying verified proceeds or losses.
And what about legal expenses?
Now, if we reach a settlement before litigation, we can discuss reasonable documented costs directly connected to resolving the dispute. I cannot agree to an unknown amount, but I'm willing to review the actual documentation.
Still sounds like you're trying to lower what you owe.
I'm trying to make sure that the settlement reflects the actual loss and can be realistically paid. I understand that you're starting from $100,000 because that's what you believe the collection was worth. I'm not dismissing that possibility, but I cannot reasonably agree to it without evidence.
It's worth a lot more than that, but it seems the evidence just appeared with the entire collection in your store.
That's a fair concern. The business's poor records should not automatically benefit the business. Where documentation is incomplete, we can consider your original inventory photographs, purchase records, witness statements, emails, and previous appraisals. I'm willing to use multiple forms of evidence rather than requiring a single perfect document.
Starting to sound a little more reasonable.
My goal is not to defeat you in negotiation. I want the process to be fair enough that both of us can explain why the final amount was chosen.
I don't know what happens if we can't agree.
You could pursue a lawsuit. I would have to contact an attorney and defend the business. I could also pursue claims against the former owner for the insurance company. That process could become expensive and take a long time for both of us.
I'm prepared to sue if I have to.
I understand. That is a legitimate alternative. My alternative would be to preserve the records, cooperate with the insurance investigation, obtain legal representation, and allow a court to determine responsibility and damages. However, I think mediation would be a better step before litigation. It would allow for a neutral person to help us evaluate the records and discuss a settlement without immediately spending a large amount on legal fees.
Need actions first before you consider anything else.
That's fair. Mediation should not replace my responsibility to gather the records and secure the remaining inventory. Here is the commitment I'm prepared to make today. Within 2 business days, I will place all remaining items believed to be part of your collection on hold so that none can be sold or moved. Within 7 days, I will provide you with copies of all available inventory, sales, payment, and communication records. Within 10 days, you'll receive a complete physical inventory together. You may bring a family member, representative, or attorney if you choose. Within 14 days, we will jointly select an independent appraiser. All confirmed remaining items will be returned to you within 5 business days after the physical inventory, unless you request otherwise. Once the appraisal and the accounting is complete, I will pay all verified unpaid sales proceeds immediately. For confirmed missing inventory, I will submit an insurance claim and negotiate a settlement based on the appraised value and the original consignment terms. If we disagree after receiving the appraisal, we will attend mediation before either party files a lawsuit.
What if the insurance company denies the claim?
A denial would not automatically end the business's responsibility. We would then discuss an initial payment and a written installment agreement for the remaining verified amount. The agreement would include payments, payment dates, consequences for missed payments, and documentation of the debt.
I would want the first payment to be substantial.
That's reasonable. Once we know of a verified amount, I will provide physical documentation showing what the business can pay immediately without making a promise that we cannot keep. We can use that information during mediation if necessary.
I'm also going to need updates. I don't want you to be ignoring me again.
Agreed. I'll provide a written statement every Friday until the inventory appraisal and payment issues are resolved, even if the update is simply that we're still waiting for information.
Okay, I can agree the inventory appraisal mediation process so long as the remaining items are secured immediately.
I will secure them today, definitely, and send you written confirmation. I will also send you the full proposed agreement by tomorrow so that we can both review it before signing.
Still pretty angry. I'm not promising that I will never pursue legal action.
I understand, and I'm not asking you to give up the right before I fulfill my commitments. I am asking for the opportunity to complete this process in good faith. If I fail to meet the agreed deadlines, you would still have the option to pursue mediation or legal action.
Seems fair.
Okay, thank you for willing to work through it. I know an agreement does not immediately restore your trust, but I hope consistent action and transparency can begin repairing some of the damage.
Dang.
And see.